Have you been following this stuff with Justin Trudeau and the truckers in Canada? He's invoked for the first time in Canadian history the so-called Emergencies Act. Now, this Emergencies Act is supposed to be for national emergencies. This is the act passed in 1988, and here's what it says. It says that it's only supposed to be enacted during, quote, urgent and critical public emergencies, which, quote, seriously endanger the lives, health, or safety of Canadians or threatens the security of Canada. Now, how are the truckers doing that? The truckers are exercising a certain kind of annoyance, a certain kind of civil disobedience, a certain kind of public protest. So they're expressing their views. They just want to get back to normal life. And their argument is that Canada has prevented them from doing that. So here's Trudeau, and what is he doing? He's locking them up. He's blocking their bank accounts. He's even trying to close the GoFundMe campaigns that are for the truckers. And so all of this, a severe attack, I think, on just the idea of basic freedom. Now, ironically, these slogans of the Trudeau government, or regime may be a better word, are being echoed in America. Here's Biden. He goes, I love how people talk about personal freedom. If you're exercising personal freedom, put someone else in jeopardy, their health in jeopardy, I don't consider that freedom. Wow. And then, of course, sure enough, almost mechanically in a Pavlovian way, you see CNN and other media outlets echo this. Here's CNN's Miguel Marquez. He's talking about the truckers' convoy. He goes, quote, it's wrapped up in this sort of notion of the guise of freedom, whatever that means. So evidently, he doesn't know what it means. He's not really sure what sort of freedom are these truckers trying to push for. Well, I think that, and I'm a little surprised to see, coming from the highest ranks of the Democratic Party, an attack on freedom itself. In fact, an attempt to portray freedom as some kind of a right-wing idea. Now, Biden's premise appears to be, and I was talking last night about this on Fox, that freedom isn't really freedom. It's not true freedom if it affects other people, particularly in a negative way. And I want to point out what kind of nonsense this is. All freedom has consequences, not just consequences for you, the person exercising it, but for lots of other people, both positive and negative. Just take a simple example. A wife and mom who has been at home decides to go to work, take up a job, take up a career. Now that's freedom. That's a choice. It has consequences. It has consequences for the company that she goes to work for. It has consequences for her husband and her marriage. It has consequences for her children. Some of these may be positive. Some of these may be negative. But no one can say that it can't be freedom because, hey, look, it's affecting other people. No, all our choices in pretty much every domain, unless you're sitting on a sacred pillar, your choices are going to affect other people. Now, obviously, it is not a legitimate exercise of freedom if I am to swing my arm in a manner that makes a contact with somebody else's jaw. Then my freedom is infringing on your rights. But here's the point. When Biden is thinking about COVID, how am I actually doing that? Let's say, for example, I go to a store or to a mall or to a restaurant or to a theater and I'm unmasked and I'm unvaccinated. I'm exercising my freedom. I agree, it affects other people. But I'm saying I'm not swinging my arm in a manner that hits their jaw. I'm simply saying they have freedom too. If somebody says, well, Dinesh, I don't want to be exposed through you to COVID, I could say, well, I don't want to be exposed to COVID through you. You're obviously vaccinated, so you're less vulnerable than someone who's unvaccinated. Someone who's unvaccinated actually faces a greater danger from getting COVID from a vaccinated person than a vaccinated person faces from getting COVID from an unvaccinated person. Moreover, you're saying don't come to the mall, Dinesh, because you're not wearing a mask, you're not vaccinated. And I say, if you want to place a high premium on your own security and make sure you don't get COVID, why don't you stay home? Why are you at the mall? Because whether vaccinated or not, you're not invulnerable to getting COVID. So the point I'm getting here is that you don't own the common air between us. For me to breathe in and breathe out is not to violate your rights any more than for you to breathe in and breathe out is to violate my rights. So the point here is that there's a deep misunderstanding of freedom going on that somehow implies that if somebody takes actions that put someone else at greater risk, for example, from contracting COVID because they're breathing the same air, and that therefore I'm somehow culpable for what you get as a result of that. No, I'm not culpable. You're culpable. If you don't want to get it, stay home.